Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last session of the day. I can't believe it. I'm here Pacific Coast, so I've been up bright and early for our 8 a.m. session, but I'm not tired at all because today's sessions were phenomenal. I know in chatting with all of you on Whova, many of you are all feeling the same way. So if you missed today, not to worry, all the sessions will be up in 48 hours so you can watch them on a walk and get all of the nuggets and insights that you missed from today. And don't forget, there's 3 more days left, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. So the party and the learning and the celebration will continue. Today's session is Philanthropy by the People, for the People, with the amazing Latino Giving Circle Network, sharing their groundbreaking assessment that they did with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Center for Effective Philanthropy. You don't want to miss the learnings and the insights from this session. As a reminder, the closed captioning is available and can be enabled at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I'm Isis, by the way, from the Philanthropy Together team. We're so grateful to have all of you in this Zoom community with us for We Give Summit. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Anais, Amaya. And just a reminder that at the end of this session, there's going to be a 2-question poll to close us out. So please stay on and provide us feedback. That's so helpful as we dive in further. Anais, take it away.
Hi, sis, and welcome once again to Philanthropy by the People, for the People. My name is Anais Amaya, and together with my colleague Raaida, Mannaa, you should see her on the screen somewhere, we manage the largest network of Latino philanthropists in the country, the Latino Giving Circle Network. And today we're very excited to be with you because, like as Isis mentioned, we are unveiling some of our findings of our multi-year evaluation. But I won't jump the gun. I'll pass it on to Raaida, who's going to tell you a little bit more about it and get us started.
Thank you, Anais. And we're so excited to be here with you today, celebrating giving and celebrating the power that working together has. And let us tell you a little bit about our network and where we are, the Latino Giving Circle Network. We're celebrating 10 years this year, 10 years of making history. Imagine if a group of Latinas coming together to change the world. From a circle of 12 women to a movement. Right now, we have 20 giving circles across the state. And although we don't like to tell the stories focusing on numbers, it is important to talk about them. We have, in the last 10 years, mobilized 500 members, invested $2.4 million in over 100 grassroots Latino-led organizations in California. And the most important thing is, what does this mean, right? What makes our heart full of joy? We feel we're successful when Latinos see themselves as philanthropists. And this is what happens when Latinos join our network. When nonprofits are funded and when they feel validated. And also when policymakers take our recommendations and create actions from those. Basically, when we make the invisible visible, and this is what this network does. We know that generosity is embedded in the DNA of Latino communities, but now we have the research to prove it. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Adriana Lozón Ceballos. Adriana is an evaluation consultant and one of 7 co-founders of Colmena Consulting, a social venture startup created to offer an innovative professional service model for social change actors. Adriana offers her services as an evaluator and critical researcher, and designs evaluations and research that are participatory and rooted in critical theories, elevating community voices often ignored when determining the successes of challenges in collective action efforts. She recently defended her doctoral dissertation. The dissertation focuses on how members of the Latino Giving Circle Network make sense of their philanthropic engagement and how participation affects their well-being and their civic engagement. And Adriana is here with us today. Adriana, thank you so much. Adriana is about also to bring life to this world. Baby Frida is on the way. So we cannot thank you enough for being with us today, Adriana.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm seeing who's in the room, and I already feel like all of my families are in one place. So I'm excited to dive in and share some of these findings that we've been talking about. Stop share, give me 1 second. I just did something that I wasn't supposed to. Sorry, technical difficulties. Starting from the beginning. Okay. We practiced this. We got online early for this to not happen, and then it happened anyway. So
It always does.
It always does. Okay. And then play.
Perfect.
Wait, no, sorry. I think, Anais, you're going to have to share the screen if that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking in the meantime, but we are excited, as we've mentioned, that we're going to be presenting some findings from a multi-year evaluation that we did of the Latino Giving Circle Network. That was the basis for my dissertation, and which I think offers some really exciting lessons for the Giving Circle movement writ large, and really helps us to reimagine the impact of giving circles and what that impact looks like for members, for their grantees, and for their communities. I was the lead researcher on this project, so that's why I'm here, but I know we're also going to share the slide, the link for my dissertation if you want to geek out and like really go all in. There's a lot more findings there. So as Raaida said, and the first slide is really about the impact beyond the numbers. You know, the numbers that she shared are really impressive. If you think about a state-based, statewide based network of, in the state of California, we're talking about 500 Latinos investing $2.4 million of new philanthropic money and supporting over 100 organizations that are led by Latinos, that are grassroots, and that are usually not funded. That's something that's really impressive by itself. And it's something that, you know, like Philanthropy Together and the other Giving Circle networks that exist needs infrastructure. And that's something that also needs to be supported in order to democratize giving. And so this is a network that is supported by the Latino Community Foundation and has been around for 10 years. But we knew that there was impact that we were hearing, that we were seeing, that wasn't being told when we just focused on the numbers. And so just to make sure let's go to the next slide. We had a couple of hypotheses. We said, you know, if we know that this is something that is mobilizing new money, it's mobilizing new donors, it's really democratizing who's at the decision-making table, what else are we seeing? And we had a hypothesis first that Giving Circle participation was positively affecting levels of civic engagement among members. 2, that Giving Circles contributed to members' levels of well-being and to the community social fabric. And 3, that it made donors give more and give differently. I mean, we started this summit this morning really talking about and being called in by Vulay and Angela and others to say, how are we giving differently to what has been done before? And so these were hypotheses that we knew would make and unleash a new type of philanthropy. And the results were definite on all fronts. And not only that, but we saw that they were affecting members of Giving Circles, their grantees, and the communities that they were part of. In other words, that there were layered benefits that went beyond the number of dollars given or organizations funded. So let's dig in. In terms of civic engagement, one of the things that we really looked at was personal agency, right? We know that with personal agency, you know how to change your circumstances, and you also have the confidence to do it, right? So it's a know-how and the doing. And what we saw was that participation in Giving Circles really contributed to members' level of personal agency, regardless of how strong it was when they joined. In the pandemic, we heard of stories of people who had been like really civically engaged and then were, you know, in an analysis paralysis because what do I do? How do I shift virtually? How do I deal with the compounding crises? And others who had never been activated saying, I need to get involved. And so that level of impact was something that was across the board and very exciting to see. And in particular, we asked the entire network, which about 49% responded, to rate statements after joining their Giving Circle. And 68% said that they felt more confident about the actions they could take to positively change their community. 75% said that they understood that their voice mattered on social issues after they joined their giving circle. And 60% said that they worked with others to address social issues. So in other words, these statements show that members went from like knowing that what they could do, knowing that they had something to do, and working with others to move the change needle that they wanted to change. It's interesting because when we wanted to capture the types of civic engagement that people were undertaking, we saw that there was a wide gamut, everything from like talking to others about political or social issues to running for office. I mean, people ran for office at a noticeable percentage of a network. But the fact that 84% year over year selected talking to others about a social or a political issue is amazing to think about when we think about how divided this country is, how divided the world is becoming, and how difficult it is to hear one another. But it also is a type of civic engagement that is both public and private, right? You have the capacity to have a conversation with a racist uncle or to have a conversation with an elected official. And so knowing that their giving circle is a space that informs them on how to have these conversations is really exciting to think about how we're preparing people to be part of our social fabric, our democratic fabric. Let's switch now to the impact on well-being. This is groundbreaking stuff because we hadn't really thought about philanthropy as a space for healing the donors, the grantees, and the community. But what we're finding is that particularly for individual members, giving circle participation reduces isolation. And this is a network that I could talk for hours about the diversity within it. There's diversity along race, around gender, around sexuality. 75% of it is either first generation born in the United States or born abroad. So we're talking about immigrants. It's divided in rural and urban and suburban. Like this is a very, very diverse network of Latinos that are at risk for isolation and what those problems can cause in terms of health. And so having a collective space to celebrate and mourn together, and in the case of this network, but I know it happens for APIP and other networks that are share a culture or a race or an ethnicity, that this is a space where it aligns with how you would want to celebrate and mourn. And that is huge. 94% of respondents said that they no longer felt alone in the United States after they joined their giving circle. And in conversations with Giving Circle members during the research, I heard story after story after story of how they supported each other during the pandemic. From parking their cars in a circle in a parking lot so that they could at least talk to each other on a grants night and see one another, to like doing drive-bys for birthdays, et cetera, et cetera. The stories were endless on how participating in their giving circle was something that was positive for their mental health. And this was particularly important because there isn't a sense of toxic positivity, right? They shared stories on how, the pandemic was really rough for them, but their giving circle was a space for them where they could talk and heal. But also after the 2019 El Paso shooting, circles that came together to mourn, to cry, to even sing sad songs together. Giving circles have deep roots in the communities of color that are often marginalized in this country and in other places. And so this model and its roots need to be underscored. In the case of the Latino Giving Circle studied, personal pride in Latino culture, as they saw it in their circle, was something that they said helped them feel better. So if we switch to the next slide, Giving Circle participation inspired members to give more and to more organizations that they enjoyed before. So we've already talked about the effects on civic engagement. We've talked about the effects on wellness and well-being. It also affected their philanthropy. They increased their total giving. And 76% said that their giving circle increased Latino philanthropy in their community in a noticeable way. While 78% said that they believed their giving circle responded to the needs of Latino-led organizations. And that's important because this isn't donors going to the organizations and saying, you can pay for the water, but not the hose, as Wule said, but this is about supporting what do you need. I mean, I heard stories of donors saying, I called my grantees during the pandemic and said, what do you need? So it's it's a nimble and a it responds to the needs of the community. 70% said that they believed that their giving circle also helped raise awareness of the solutions that were to the problems affecting their communities. And this is because they're funding grassroots organizations. They're funding Latino-led organizations. They're funding the solutions that are community-led. And this is often it often took the shape of funding organizations that would not have been funded otherwise, and really increasing their visibility. And to me, this demonstrates the power of giving circles as scouts for underfunded and overperforming grassroots organizations. And so I always say, like, if you're looking for an organization to give, look up your local giving circle in the Philanthropy Together directory and find out who they're funding. Reach out, fund who is being funded by giving circles, especially since 84% of members said that they believe their giving circle established connections with Latino-led organizations. On this last slide, I'll just say that this figure of, less than 1.1% of dollars of philanthropic dollars go to Latino nonprofits in the country is ridiculous. But I'm sure that by any racial or ethnic category we wanted to look at, it would be the same. And if we looked along any other lines, we'd also start to see huge deficits. But this is a movement that is actually producing donors that are highly engaged community members. They volunteer, they provide their help and skills, they participate on boards, they open doors, and they give visibility to the organizations that they fund. They're responsive to their grantees. They're nimble to the shocks and stressors that their grantees are facing. And there's something that was really evident during the pandemic was their ability to see the compounding crises that were being faced by their communities. Together, these findings urge us to consider the impact of this form of philanthropy in ways that understand that the impact of it goes way beyond the money that is moved, and to see the way that it sustains the social fabric that prevents the social disintegration in our communities. I'm going to stop here, hand it back to LCF. I know I went 2 minutes over, but this is really exciting stuff, and I'm super motivated by all of this. And like I said, my dissertation's in the chat. I could geek out about this for hours, but this is really cool stuff.
Thank you very much, Doctora Adriana, for presenting this very important information. And I just want to highlight like the impact of this. Like, this is all things that we all knew, like in our hearts, we all knew that giving circles were good for our wellness, but now we have the data to back it up. And that we can move mountains with that. So let's make sure we take this in and we really reflect on what it means for the Giving Circle movement and the work that you're doing with your communities. So before we get started with the panel, I did want to remind everyone that we are going to have some minutes towards the end of the session to answer any questions you might have. So if you have any questions for Dr. Adriana or our panelists today, please make sure you send them in through the Q&A, and we're going to have some minutes towards the end to get to them. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you our two panelists today. I have the honor of working with both of them through our Giving Circle network. We have Victoria Arreola, the lead of Latinos in Healthcare Giving Circle, and Luis Cachua, the founder and lead of the Orange County Latino Giving Circle, with us today. And to get us started in this discussion, here's a question for the both of you. Why don't you share what is your why and why you're a member of LGCN? So we'll start with you, Victoria.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us today. It's my pleasure to represent our Giving Circle, our first healthcare Giving Circle in the network. And the reason why I am so passionate about this, my why, it really comes down to philanthropy is in our culture, is in our cultura. As a woman of color, Latina from Jalisco, Mexico, I was brought up from really humble beginnings through my grandfather. He is my role model. My grandfather has taught me since I was little to give back. I remember when I was little, we would always go back to his hometown and we would give back to the most vulnerable communities of the hometown and just being able as a child, I remember I was only 4 or 5, I believe, back then, and just the feeling of giving back to those communities that mostly need it. He has been my role model in giving back, and those values I continue to bring in now as a mom, as a parent. I do the same with my children. If we offer our time volunteering when it comes to giving back to our community, because it really is about honing on those values as in our because we have it in our culture. A lot of cultures of color, people of color, we have that giving within us, and we have that passion to give back. We're people of generosity. We give everywhere we go, and that is my why. That's why I joined the Latino Community Foundation Giving Circle Network, because it brings it talks about that being part of a voice for our community, and now where we can bring in those dollars and donate, and not donate, invest in our communities that really are doing the groundwork and really moving those efforts to support the most underrepresented communities, and specifically our Latino community. But that is my why. My grandfather taught me. Now I change, I lead with the values that I was instilled with him. Now I lead it with my children, and I hope, and that is my mission, for me to be a role model for my children as well, for them to continue those generations. And it's the beginning of a change in the movement. And I'm just grateful that we have the space, and I'm grateful for Latino Community Foundation for bringing that space to be able to be a voice for our community and be part of the table. Because no matter what, when you join a circle, you feel like you belong. It brings in that cultural background, and you connect with other Latinos that have the same passion, the same values. And as a collective, it's powerful. You get to be that voice for our community. So that is my reason why I joined LCF Giving Circle.
Thank you for reminding us that giving is in our DNA. And a shout out to all of our grandparents, our madrinas, our tias and tios that taught us about this, that led by example. And this is why we're here. Luis, why don't you share a little bit about you?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I'm super excited and honored to be here. It's been a long road here with the Latino Giving Circle, but it's a perfect platform for my personal why, which led me to being involved, which is two parts. One is my mission in the work that I do, both professionally and personally, and carries over into the Giving Circle, is that my goal is to amplify the culture and the hard work that our Latino community has brought to this country. We too many times hear all the negative stories. And so this is a great, for me, anything that I touch, whether it's professionally or through the Giving Circle or philanthropy, I hope to amplify all the positive work that we've done, all the positive things that we're going to do in the future, and all the positive things that we bring to this American culture here in the United States. The second piece of my why is the people that came before us, just like Victoria was saying, our grandparents, our tios, our tias, my mom, my dad, they did the hard work, which was like taking this ginormous entrepreneurial risk to come to this country with no guarantees. And so like the second big part of my why is like honoring that. And the best way that we can honor that risk that they made is by taking those gifts that we've gotten of this opportunity to be in a country that really provides us a plethora of opportunities to create our own dreams, honor the dreams that our parents may have had and grandparents may have had that they didn't fulfill. Because now me as a parent of a 5-year-old, I do understand that life and our history here as Latinos is a marathon and not a sprint, right? And so I hope to honor my grandparents, Victoria's grandparents, Anais's grandparents, Raaida's, for that big risk they took, and in everything that we do, that we're intentional about giving back as an honoring and of that hard work, and that everything they gave up for us to be here. And so, that's why the Giving Circle is a perfect platform and an opportunity. It puts us together with like-minded individuals, and it says, you know, how do I put my granito de sal, like my mom would say and my grandmother would say, in today's space, so that I not only can make a difference, but then lead by example, not just by what I say, but what I do. And then we can inspire future philanthropies, including in your home, in your community, and across this country.
And I remember Luis once shared with me about how his mom, every month when she was getting all her finances in order, she would make sure that she would get a chunk of money that was going somewhere where she was investing in her community.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll make this quick, but like, I mean, I was just in her house yesterday because she's going to Guadalajara tonight to celebrate with my tia's Mother's Day. And there was a picture on the refrigerator, and I'm like, whose kids are those? And she's like, these are the kids that I send money to. That she says $10. I mean, she's my dad and mom were poor as heck when they came to this country. Only had one job, made minimum wage. But since I can remember, she still does her check register by hand. She prioritized giving a piece of what they got to someone else, because her and my father have always said that there's always someone that needs more than you and that is in a worse situation. So ever since then, like, you know, giving has been in the DNA. And now I realize that even though we were poor, right, it's not about how much money you have, but what you prioritize.
Something that our CEO often says is that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and we are. And this is what we're doing. We're honoring them in everything that we do. Victoria, Adriana shared a little bit about how being part of this type of movement inspires you and pushes you to be more civically engaged. How does participating in a giving circle increase your engagement in your community?
Great question. It really is, you know, it's a collective engagement from not just myself, but also Latinos in Healthcare, formerly known as CAPLA Giving Circle. It's really harnessing that partnership with our grantees and being able to support them. It's beyond the dollars. We, as the Giving Circle, we started, our inception was through the BRG. Coming from a corporation, we leveraged that power to be able to include our BRG and our equity and diversity programs. And because of that, we've been able to provide more of the engagement, more of the investment within our community. And one of the examples is through one of our grantees, Pre-Health Dreamers, who supports undocumented students aspiring to be the next healthcare leaders, physicians, nurse practitioners, everything that you can think of in terms of healthcare. We partner with them. We actually have a board member in their new coalition that they have started this past year. And it's that power of, again, it's the power of feeling belonging, and also it's people, it's us color people leading them as well, and then feeling that, you know, someone does have my back, and feeling that of that connection, that partnership, that we do help each other. And so that's really what it is in terms of how I feel that our engagement has happened. We continue to support. I think considering that I mentioned we are the first healthcare giving circle throughout the pandemic. I mean, during the pandemic, our engagement just skyrocketed because we knew that we needed to pivot and we needed to fund the organizations that we granted, because there was an urgent matter that we needed to give out those dollars that we had during 2020 when we first had our grant cycle, because we knew that the power of our giving was going to support these vulnerable communities. I mean, there was Pre-Health Dreamers and another organization that we funded. They were doing the groundwork. They were going and providing that COVID response support for them. And because of our dollars, we were able to have that impact. And so that is part of the engagement that we have done and we continue to do, partnering with our grantees and being able to harness that power of also change and changing that philanthropy narrative as well, because it's not just about the traditional philanthropy. It's more about that. It's being part of our communities and people of color who can support each other. So that's that for that.
And something I really love about your circle is that I think it's a perfect example of how giving circles can evolve. You know, it started within a circle within Kaiser Permanente, and now it has become and opened up to Latinos in healthcare across California. So, you know, a lot of the times we get stuck on what is the problems that the circle is currently having, but there's a lot of evolution that happens, and there's many directions in which you can take a circle and expand your reach and power to the community. Luis.
Yes.
Has participating in the circle raised awareness of the solutions to problems affecting Latinos in California? And if so, let us know how.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I think before the Giving Circle, the funny part was that I was kind of tuned out of politics and civic engagement because of all I just kind of wanted to stay out, even though I had thought about running for office locally. But then the pandemic hit, and right as we were getting our Giving Circle started here 2 years ago. And the amazing part of that is, like, one, it helps shine a light on groups that were doing amazing work, like Chispa, who are now great partners and friends of ours. And two, you know, the pandemic changed the way elections were being run, like how you were going to engage. So for example, we're here I live in Santana, which is about 85% Latino and mostly Mexican, very similar demographics to Los Angeles and some of the top 10 most Hispanic densities in the country. And, you know, this partnership with Chispa was amazing because they, one, you know, showed us the power of a collective, because they're people that organize and knock door to door. Two, here's this young man, Raaida, who's, I don't know, 27. I call him a kid, but he does amazing organizing and groundwork, and just has helped me think through, like, how you can think about organizing, civic engagement, and philanthropy. And that even though, you know, our dollars were about $15,000, one, it helped them in big ways. One, they were able to staff people because they got a matching fund from LCF. Two, it just helped me and a bunch of members start thinking, what else could we do, right? And so that I think that's really important. The two pieces are, you know, understanding the system, knowing what you can do, and then really feeling the impact, because ultimately the mayor, of all the candidates that ran during the time that we got focused, all three that was supported by Chispa, which is where we gave our dollars to, who ended up doing some grassroots work, they all won, and which was pretty amazing. And initiatives passed that were for the community and really important to the local economy. So, you know, I got revitalized and re-engaged, and understand that even from a 1 person, 10 person, 15 person group, we can change things and we can make an impact. And to be truthfully honest, like we all know, the big changes all start locally, and we need to be more engaged and educated around that.
Your circle was actually the first one that got together and mobilized and called us up when the pandemic started and asked us, how much money do we have in the pot right now? What is needed? What do the organizations need right now? And what else can we do? Your circle was the first one to do that. And that was the one that put the fire under our butts to move quickly and to gather everyone and start moving resources.
Yeah. And I was pretty excited that, like, we have some pretty strong heads, even though we're small. And in 2 seconds, they all said, we need to flip the money into whatever needs to happen during this time. So that was pretty awesome that changed so quickly.
Small but mighty. Luis, why don't you tell me, how does being a member of the circle impact your wellness and the collective wellness of the members?
Yeah, you know what's funny is I'm you know, about 3 years ago now, I worked in corporate America the majority of my career, so I didn't realize, like, how much I loved being around people all the time, and I loved, you know, being able to bounce ideas. And about 3 years ago, I started working on my own. And, you know, I mean, just being self-employed is a hell of a commitment, and it's very taxing on your mind and your soul and your spirit, which I didn't realize. And so now, you know, being a part of the Giving Circle has provided that, you know, offline network that I need, both professionally and socially. You know, I didn't think that these people that I was going to engage around these causes were going to be the same people that I was going to call up for answers to work. And I can already tell you, like, on 3 big things that the Giving Circle members have helped me. Like, I've joined a dad's like parenting group. I've joined a tech group. And I've joined a health wellness group, all through the Giving Circle, right? And that wasn't the intention, but it is, you know, the reality as humans is that we're more alike than different. And then it becomes even clearer when you get together with folks that are together for a common purpose. And so it's played a very important role for me, needing that emotional support, mental support, and sometimes just, quite honestly, picking up the phone and complaining about the crap you go through as an entrepreneur or just a day-to-day life.
Thank you, Victoria.
I think for me, it was, and being the leader in our Giving Circle, it really brought a sense of unity, and having that joy, compassion, and that impact that we were doing together as a whole. We having that space, that sense of belonging within our own circle too, and building those relationships, building those strong bonds. And for our circle, we have monthly meetings. We had monthly meetings, and every time we would just check in. How is everybody doing? How is everybody going through, you know, throughout the pandemic? We were supporting each other without really realizing, because we would come together every month, we would check in, and we build those relationships. And being able to also have the, you know, mental health has been something that we've all have gone through, and being part of our fund too, like we had to reshift our priorities, addressing those needs of mental health too, being able to reshift those priorities and feeling that sense of, again, I keep saying it because it's true, like the sense of belonging within our space, and also our grantees as well. And I think one of the things too is like the power of elevation of our investments, like knowing that, you know, we do have the power to do that. And like Louis said, even if it's a small but mighty impact, you know, you do have that change, you do have that, you do hone that feeling. And I think that's part of the wellness, because you know that you are a leader in your community. Like, you could be a leader no matter your title, no matter what you're doing. It does not matter. If you have the passion, if you lead with the heart, and you're able to bring in that piece of you, it does bring the empowerment within you to lead. And so that's part of the impact of wellness that I think that has really brought within our circle, that bonding, that leadership development, that personal and professional development as well, and just growing together and reprioritizing based on what we see in our community. And just, again, just being the voice, because when we speak up, when we speak up of the needs that we have and what our community needs, that's when change really does happen. And being that impact of, you know, it does go beyond the dollars, and just being surrounded by our community, and just being just who we are in that space. Like, there's no, like, it's a safe space. That's another thing too. When we come into our circle, it's a safe space. We can talk about anything, and you know, and continue again to bring that bond within our members.
I'll share that I'm not part of a giving circle, but I manage them. And throughout the pandemic, and always every time that I get to meet with one of the members. Right now, my energy was pretty low during the day, but just being here with you and hearing you, like, it energizes me, it inspires me, I feel good. I know that it's impacting me in a positive way, and it's all about community and pushing for that change together, collectively. So now let's open it up for some questions. I'm sure that some of you have questions for Doctora Adriana, Luis, Victoria. So let's get to them right now.
I think, Anais, we already have one. I can read it here from Michael Layton. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Can you talk about the role of the Latino Community Foundation in supporting the members of the Giving Circles? What support has LCF offered in key moments of forming, nurturing, and crisis? Luis mentioned an LCF matching fund, for example. And as I was thinking that maybe we can share a little bit about our cycle and how does it work. So I actually have a slide here that I would like to share, because this speaks to sorry. Sharing a lot of things at the same time. I'm gonna share again. I think this speaks to, here we go. This speaks to the type of philanthropy that we're building infrastructure for. I mean, I think Adriana mentioned a very important finding, and it is that, you know, different models of philanthropy they need different types of infrastructure to support them. And I think what LCF has done in these 10 years is particularly create infrastructure to support a type of philanthropy that understands Latino and that understands that change happens in different ways, and understands also that members come to the circle with a lot of expectations on how they want to grow personally as well as philanthropies. So for us, it's very important that as we build the process that, you know, supports our 20 circles, we include opportunities for members to, you know, to gain education on what are the things that they want to grow and learn as donors. To offer networking spaces and retreats. Unfortunately, we were not able to do them in person for the last 2 years, but we're back in person in January and February for our Leadership Council retreat. And it was just magical, because even though the Zoom spaces were very important during the pandemic and they allowed our networks to stay connected, just being in person, it's really magical. And what happens when we get together, it's a Latino fiesta, but it's also a Latino connection. We definitely put a lot of effort on nurturing our leadership council. We have monthly meetings with our leads, just to, you know, to not only to provide information, but most importantly to learn about the challenges. You know, each circle, as much as we have a model to do our grant making cycle, each circle has their own challenges. Each circle has their own ideas on how to develop, you know, new initiatives. So we always want to establish that conversation with the leads of the circles, and then, you know, deepening the relationships to the grassroots. I think Victoria, the KPLA team is planning a visit, for example, I think it's next week, to one of the grantees, because when you connect to the grassroots at that level, it can also show you different ways to engage. I think Victoria and Luis talk about examples on that. Anais, anything else that you want to add to this, to how we support? I mean, I'm thinking about the power talks and everything that we do, but I'll let you add to it.
Oh, I that was perfect. Yes, we do allow, we want our folks to feel supported, and that they have the tools that they need to run a successful and strong giving circle. And I would say at the end, that's our role, and we do it with a lot of heart, and we bring the fun and the music and the food to everything. That's never missing.
If I can just say one thing, as a member and as being part of the Leadership Council, I would say that LCF, and especially Raaida and Anais, has always been there no matter what. we do, as members of our circles, when we do have crisis, when we do need them, when we have questions where it's like, where do we go? How do we do this? Like, they're always there no matter what. They're so supportive. And I think that's part of the amazing work that LCF has done, because they don't just leave, like they actually like walk with us together and with anything. So I just want to say that. And they also bring that fun. They bring, when we come into our meetings, we connect, we get to talk to other Giving Circle leaders, and we are doing it together. We are a family, and that's something that I really like about LCS, because they do bring that partnership and that leadership too for our Giving Circles as well.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria.
Adriana, I have a question for you. And I mean, I think, we've talked about the specific example of the Latino Giving Circle Network, because that's the example that you use to as a focus for your research. But it would be, if there are a couple of learnings that we can, maybe share with the movement in general, the movement of Giving Circles globally. What do you think? What do you think we should be focusing on? The 2 or 3 key learnings that are important for the movement at large.
Absolutely. And I think that there's so much. From a network perspective, I think of the organizations, to Michael's question, like the network organizations and the community foundations that are hosting Giving Circles, and those that are providing the infrastructure behind this, is to really tell the story of the impact that goes beyond the dollars, to host the parties and bring the food, to really understand that there's a need to build those relationships, and to train and build the capacity of Giving Circle members to be able to create social change, right? Like, don't just be like, these are the organizations. It's like, help us become change makers as members. I think for those who aren't in Giving Circles, it's like, if you're not yet, join one. And if you are part of, if you are looking to say, I can't be part of one, but I would love to support it, look at Philanthropy Together's database of Giving Circles. Fund your your local Giving Circle. If I don't know, if something, with the rise of hate crimes against Asian Americans, like, I didn't know who to fund in my community, but I found that there was an API Giving Circle here in my community, and I reached out to them by email and said, who do you fund? Like, fund those organizations and see your Giving Circles as scouts for organizations to fund. And if you're a donor and you just want to support all of this, you need to fund the infrastructure. Like, this is a type of philanthropy that is democratizing giving. And I think that if you really want to put money where we can move in a direction that's like community driven, and that the solutions are coming from the communities themselves, like, fund Giving Circles, fund the infrastructure, and fund the research, because we're a growing field and we're trying to figure out how to tell the story and how to really capture this impact. And so those, I think, are the big takeaways. But definitely, as a community, as a powerful tool, it's something that should be funded from multiple directions.
Thank you very much. That was a perfect way to close us off. If you're interested in looking for a Giving Circle in your area, the link is right there. You can go to Philanthropy Together, look at the directory, search for a group around you. If you're interested in learning about the Latino Giving Circle Network, we invite you to go check us out at latinocf.org. Thank you very, very much to Adriana, Luis, and Victoria for being with us today. Adriana has to head out and have a baby, but it was wonderful to be with you all today. Raaida, close us off.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share what we're doing. We want to keep building this movement with you. Please join us. And thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Luis. And thank you, Adriana, for joining us today and for just sharing what the magic of the Latino Giving Circle Network. And thank you all for being here.
you all. See you soon.
Everyone. A quick 2-question poll is popping up on your screen right now. Please take a second to answer that. Adriana was sharing how research is so crucial to this movement. And this is what research looks like. It means that you have to fill out the surveys, which, you know, it's not always fun, but I promise it's important and important for us and for We Give. This was our last session for today, but we have an entire amazing day of We Give Summit sessions happening tomorrow, starting bright and early at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So please join us for that. I'm personally excited about the cooking demonstration by Adobo Fish Sauce mid-afternoon. So please join us tomorrow for another fantastic day of sessions. And thank you again to everyone on this Zoom. This was incredible.